Hello, and welcome to our virtual conversation, Campus Housing and Food and Saratoga Springs. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Muriel Martin. I'm the Associate Dean of Student Affairs for Campus Life and Engagement, which means I oversee our areas of leadership activities, student diversity programs, community service, and religious and spiritual life here at Skidmore. I'm grateful to have this opportunity to moderate today's conversation. And before we get started taking questions, which you can submit in the Q&A or directly into the chat to our panelists, before we begin that, I'd like to invite the panelists to introduce themselves. So let's get started with Shayna.
Hi everyone, my name is Shayna. I use any pronouns. I'm a senior at Skidmore, originally from Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Philadelphia. I'm a political science major with double minors in philosophy and history. And I do tons of things on campus, which I'm sure we'll be talking about later more as they come up.
Thanks. Richie?
Yeah, my name is Richie. I'm from Queens, New York. I go by he, him, his pronouns. And I'm an economics and political science double major, which is always fun. And I'm working on my senior thesis. So that's sort of like the big thing for this semester. And I do a lot of other stuff on campus, but we'll get into it more in details and hopefully the webinar.
Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm a sophomore here. I'm originally from Santa Barbara, California. I'm also a political science major, theater minor.
Great. Austin.
Hey everyone, my name's Austin Rook. I'm from Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. I'm a junior here at Skidmore and I'm a double major in business and economics. And I play on the men's ice hockey team and serve as a couple other roles on campus.
Great, thank you. So we'll begin to take any questions if you have some. And if not, maybe we can start, if folks want to talk about maybe some of their experiences in on-campus living, in the residence hall, on-campus apartments, what are those experiences like? Lindsay.
Well, as a sophomore, I'm still living in the dorms, which is obviously where all of our freshmen will live. Our first years will live in the first semester and second semester and stuff. I'm also an RA, so I'm very familiar with our dorm at this point. I live in Penfield Hall, which is one of the ones that has more freshmen in it and underclassmen. So I mostly lived I've lived in Penfield and Howe Rounds, which is one of our also special communities. I lived in the special substance-free community last semester, not last semester, last year. I've had a really positive experience so far in the dorms. The residential ed model and stuff has put on really fun programs and stuff that I've gotten to enjoy. Why I then became an RA, and it's really a good community, I feel like, on at least the floors I've been on.
Shayna.
Yeah, I can go into sort of some of the more like logistical things that you might be curious about. In a normal year, a lot of our first year students will live in triples. I lived in a triple my first semester at Skidmore. With COVID, things are a little bit different now, so I can't exactly say what your experience is going to be like. Right now, I think most of our first years are living in doubles, which, as someone who lived in a triple, I found I had plenty of space. One of my roommates did end up moving out by our second semester, which was really awesome because facilities came, took all of her furniture out. So we just had like extra space, which was super awesome. That all happened because of conflict, not at all related to me and not at all my fault. But yeah, it was just a really great experience. And it was really great to be meeting people I absolutely not would have interacted with otherwise. Both of my roommates were STEM majors, which was something, not at all that I really would have experienced during my first year. And then my sophomore year, I was able to live in a single, which was super awesome. And I really, as someone who grew up sharing a room, had an awesome time finally having my own space, which I really enjoyed. And in terms of like roommates, I saw someone had a question about that. Your first year, you will be going random. You can fill out like a little survey. And then after that, if you want a roommate, you can choose a roommate. If you want a single, you can just choose a single. And then we do a lottery system for upperclassmen housing. And I hope that was like helpful for some of that kind of stuff.
Great. I think for those of you in attendance, if you haven't looked at the Res Life website, I think something that's really important to highlight and isn't at every college and university is suite style living in our traditional residence halls, as opposed to sort of a bunch of rooms with a main shared bathroom on that floor. We do have one residence hall that is structured that way, but most of the residence halls are that suite style where you're sort of sharing that common bathroom with a small group of about eight or so students. So I think that's a nice way to sort of have a more intimate connection there. Can you, Shana, you talked about it a little bit, but maybe anything about the process of maybe finding a roommate, moving into beyond first year?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. In terms of when you're still living in a residence hall, like I said, I lived in a single, so that was just like not anything I had to do. I considered having a roommate, and that was mostly just people that I was friends with, and I did that socially. You can also go random if that's something that you want to do, and I believe you can still fill out that same like housing survey. I know for upperclassmen that will oftentimes move into our on-campus apartments or off-campus. I think a lot of times people will also just do that socially through friends. Each class will also have like a Facebook page, and I know a lot of people who maybe need to fill a spot in a house or an apartment or something like that will post that way. Yeah, one of the really nice things about our residential life situation in our Office of Res Life is that they are really flexible if you go to them with solutions. And I think that's one of the benefits of living on campus is, if you had a roommate conflict or something like that, you can say, hi, I would like to move, versus like I had a roommate conflict last semester living off campus, and I had to like find someone to take over my lease and like sublet for me. So that was definitely like a challenge. And I think most of our students will live on campus because of that. I think the only reason I personally am off campus is just because of COVID. And that made it a lot easier for me personally.
What about access to cooking and cooking utensils and in the residence halls, particularly as a first year student? Richie.
Yeah, from my memory, the residence halls are equipped with a communal fridge and as well as a microwave. So I would say recommend labeling your stuff just because you don't want things to go missing. So that's one of the cool things that I actually use. So luckily, when I started labeling my stuff, nothing went missing. When I didn't label my stuff might have been flying around the residence halls. So I would just recommend just sort of labeling your stuff. But once you're outside the residence halls and you live into luxurious apartments like I am, you're fully equipped with everything you need. So you have your stove, your oven, your dishwasher, a kitchen sink. So you have all the necessary tools. You just need to go buy your own utensils and pots and pans. And trust me, it's absolutely gorgeous. And I love cooking. So it's honestly like the best of both worlds for me living in the apartment. So I highly recommend it.
Great. Do athletes of the same sport tend to live together in their first year? So in that housing selection or sorting process, do athletes typically get housed together? Austin.
I think it's case to case. I know my freshman year, I was a 21-year-old freshman, and a lot like the other hockey freshmen were all above age, so it was more convenient for us just to be together. But I know there's athletes who have been with, chosen random. I know athletes who have been actually placed together with other athletes on their team. So I think it is case by case, but I think there's benefits to both sides.
Great. So how has dorm life changed this year, and how will it look in the fall, do you think? Yeah, Lindsay.
Well, currently in the dorms, certain things have been restricted, like the communal fridge is no longer a thing. That has been turned around and turned off. So students either had bring in like a mini fridge this semester if they wanted access to that kind of refrigeration, or just choose to go without it. There's definitely a lot more restrictions in the dorms, as students can't really hang out the same as they typically do. There's less communal activity. Things are very much squared away to your suite. But also there's a lot of online stuff, and like I know the communities are still very active. It's just a matter of doing it in a different manner. Dorms haven't changed too much though. It's mostly just like logistical things, like we've downsized from triples to doubles for our first years. And yeah.
I know we've increased the number of microwaves in our residence halls this year in particular, so to help with some of our dining restrictions related to COVID. Let's see, I want to stick with the res hall stuff. So what are the rules on bringing things like kettles, hot plates? What's, based on your knowledge, what's allowed and not allowed, the big no's in the residence halls? Lindsay.
I gotta list them off again at my floor meeting, so I'll practice now. So in terms, no cookware allowed, so we can have things that can heat things up, like a kettle for heating up water. But you can't have anything that can cook, so nothing like I've heard of people bringing crock pots, that's not allowed. No hot plates, no toasters, nothing that can like cook anything. You're only allowed to have things that can heat, like hot water.
Great. Okay, so sticking with res halls, if you have a friend who's also attending, can you request a specific person as a roommate for your first year? Shayna.
I'm not exactly positive, but I don't think so. I think your first year you are expected to go random, which personally I think is really a good way to, like I said earlier, like interact with people you never would interact with otherwise. I know that was absolutely the case, like with my roommates my freshman year, and I really enjoyed that.
Great. How about, we asked about kettles, how about coffee pots? Like a Mr. Coffee or a Keurig, are those permitted?
To my knowledge, Keurigs are permitted.
Great. Okay, so sticking with the dorms, how quiet is the dorm? So from a noise and sleep perspective, how noisy or active are regular dorms? Are they conducive to good sleep? So how do folks manage that, or what are some recommendations? Shayna.
I definitely think it depends. I never lived on a quiet floor or anything like that, but all of our residence halls, I believe, do have quiet hours. I don't know off the top of my head exactly like when they start, but I know it's different on the weekends as well. My best advice would just be like specifically try and get to know your suite mates. I feel like that's where most of the noise comes from. And if you can like cultivate a good relationship with them at the beginning, it becomes a lot less awkward to be like text them and be like, hi, please shut up, in like a nice way. I know people will also like leave notes like in the bathroom that you share with your suite mates if like they're the ones being loud, but I think your RA can also be like a really good resource. You know, if that's like a like perpetual issue with someone that you're having like an issue resolving with on your own.
I think one of my other recommendations is, I know there's that housing questionnaire, is being really honest about that, about who you are and how you like to stay up late or sleep in or get up early, because I know that those are considerations in the selection process for roommates in that first year. So be really honest. So let's shift to thinking about dining. So thinking in the dining hall, how are serious allergies handled, particularly regarding cross-contamination? Richie?
Yeah, just to my knowledge, it's, well, when I used to work there all the way in my first year, oh man, I remember when I'm working deli, like when people have dietary restrictions, as soon as they list it out, you have to make sure you change your gloves. You have to make sure everything that you just touched and the garbage. So we're very actually strict about it, just because obviously we don't want anyone to have an allergic reaction. And also we have a test kitchen. So if you do have any serious allergies that anything in dining hall doesn't really have available for you, you can just go there and have a chef actually make you custom made food. So I think that's really a cool option. So I think at Skidmore, you actually have a variety of options, even if your dietary restrictions prevents you from eating sort of, I would say, typical dining hall.
Lindsay?
They also have, for all of the foods out, they have markers with what allergens are in it. I will say sometimes they're slightly off, so use them with your own caution, but they're a pretty good way to judge if something's gonna have some.
Great. Okay, so transitioning, thinking about the town of Saratoga, how often do students go into town? And do you spend most of your time on campus? Do you wander to town? Has that changed? What is that like? I'll go, Shayna.
Yeah, I'll try and be quick because I know I've been talking a lot, but I think a lot of it just depends on like what you want to do. Camp or downtown is really accessible from campus. It's like a 10 or 15-minute walk. But we do have like a separate campus. I know like when I was living in residence hall specifically, I tended to be a little bit more of like an on-campus person just because, you know, I had my unlimited meal plan. So why would I go downtown to get food? Like I was already paying for it. And that was a really good way for me personally, especially as a student on financial aid, to like keep my costs down, is just like, you know, stay on campus because you do have a lot of the resources that you need just like right there for you. Since moving off campus particularly, and having to like cook for myself and doing all of that, I've definitely noticed that I am in town more, but I also don't have a meal plan. So like, obviously that makes sense. I'm just spending that money on groceries or getting coffee or takeout or anything like that. And then I do think like Saratoga Springs is a really great college town, especially in terms of just like all of the resources that Saratoga Springs has to offer, all the restaurants and like things to do, and especially compared to other small liberal arts colleges.
And I saw Richie's hand.
Yeah, I just honestly really fell in love with Saratoga Springs when I got to stay over one summer and actually just experience the atmosphere. This was obviously before COVID, but I remember one of my favorite stories is I'm not very a person. I'm not very artsy, so I remember I went downtown and somebody's like, "Let's go to a pottery place and paint something." I was like, "Okay." I go in there, I pick up a mug, and I start painting the bougiest little pineapple mug, and it was amazing. It's cute. I still have it with me, but usually you'll see me around campus drinking it, but now you won't see me walking around campus because COVID and it's safety week, so trying to stay inside. But typically, I love just dining out. That's something that I really am passionate about. So there's a lot of sort of food choices. So if you want a recommendation, Max London's is still one of the top of my list. So
That's great. Austin.
Yeah, I'm a big coffee drinker and love breakfast sandwiches. So, tip to everyone: Saratoga Coffee Traders for your coffee, and then you walk down the street and get an uncommon bagel. It's a good tip right there.
For sure. I'll mention, so the walk to town is really beautiful, especially along Broadway, and super quick, as Shayna mentioned. We also have the CDTA, which is a bus that goes from campus into town. It goes to the town next door, Wilton, which is where the sort of big box stores are, Targets and Walmart and other things for that kind of shopping. It also can take you to Albany. It's a little bit of a trek using CDTA, but it's possible. And CDTA is free of charge for all students. Actually, everybody at Skidmore, as a staff person, I get to ride it free of charge as well. So you just need to swipe your Skidmore ID. We also have Bike More out of our sustainability office. There are about 10 or 12 bikes that students can check out if they register and ride them around campus or into town. And I see a lot of students taking advantage of that as well. Okay, there's a question about cars on campus. Can first year students have cars on campus? Austin?
Yes, we can. I had a car on campus my freshman year, which was really nice, but I know tons of students who don't. And, you know, ride sharing, like you said, there's so many different ways you can get into town and get to places that you need to go. But yeah, and I think I see is parking easy. I think it is. There's, you know, I would say three big lots where you can park your car overnight. It's an easy walk right from your dorm right to your car. So yeah, it's a really nice situation.
There's a question about adjustments to the buses for COVID. I'll just mention what I know of CDTA. They've provided for social distancing on the buses, and there's hand sanitizers, I think, at the bus stations as well. So they have reduced capacity. Let's see. Can you still go into town during COVID? Lindsay.
Yeah, so our school is working on we all sign a pledge when we come to campus. In that pledge, it does we do agree to limit our travel outside of campus to essential travel. So I guess some people define different things as essential. There's no one stopping you from leaving the campus, but it's a matter of your own understanding and acknowledgement of what you're going to do out there. Like if you need to go and get something from the store, obviously you can go and get something from the store. Just trying to remind yourself what you're doing and if it's necessary or if it's maybe something that could wait or not be needed to do at this time.
Great. Going back to res halls, there was a question about gender inclusivity in the res hall. So do roommates have to be the same gender, or can you room with people of other genders? Shayna?
Yeah, so in general, with most of our residence halls, we do have single, I'm not sure if it's defined by gender or sex, but the suites will be shared generally by members of the same sex and or gender because of the way that we do res halls. That being said, we do, I believe, every year have 2 gender inclusive housing options, and I do know people of opposite genders that have shared rooms. I know people that have just been like best buds and they're like, I just want a room with my best bud who's a boy, and do that. But I also know a lot of queer people, and we do have LGBTQ specific housing as an option as well. And we also offer, I believe, every year a women's only floor, if that's something that anyone is interested in as well. Great.
Also say all of our on-campus apartments are gender inclusive. So anybody can select to live in apartments together as well. Okay, how is the housing process? How does it work after the first year? So you talked a little bit about it, but what's the room selection process look like, right? Is it in person, online? How do you make those determinations? How is that done? Yeah, Lindsay. Lindsay?
Okay, yeah, sorry, I didn't know if you said Richie or Lindsay, sorry. So after freshman year, you'll receive, the school does it by lottery numbers. So you receive a lottery number. There's 3 different tiers of lottery numbers. You will have each time you have to do housing selection, you will receive from a different tier of numbers. Like my freshman year, I received one of the last digits in the 2nd tier, which means I still have to get a 3rd tier, even though I was practically in the 3rd tier. So it's sometimes, lottery numbers, they're lottery numbers. And then based off your lottery number, it goes to selection. And then if you're a sophomore, you can choose to pick a different dorm where you want your single, or if you want a double and you're in your room, you and a roommate have to bid together. So you have to like both agree that you want a room with each other, then both click on the same room. I know after that, it goes to the apartment party, where there are these like apartment parties where you get together your group of 4 to 5 people. And then one person of that 4 to 5 people has to, from my knowledge, has to then create, sign up. But I believe Richie or one of the other people who live in an apartment might be able to explain that.
Yeah, Richie.
Yeah, just because I love the apartment. So yeah, that sort of process is, I'm pretty sure if you get all your numbers together, there's a certain threshold your total number might reach. And if reaches that, you might be in tier 1, which I live with mostly seniors. So I got to hit that tier 1 threshold and got to get, first dips on the apartments. But it sort of goes by how many, basically the numbers of your entire apartment. And if you reach a certain tier, if not, they take the highest number of 4 and that person gets a pick, and only one person needs to pick it. So it's much more convenient where not everybody has to be on the apartment selection page at the same time. I know probably before COVID, you were able to just go into dining hall, 2nd floor, and then it was like a whole little line. It was cool. I think it was cool going upstairs, but now it's just all virtual. So you just get to pick based on what's available.
Great, thanks. Do most students stay on campus for all 4 years, or do folks move to town, have in-town apartments? Shayna?
Yeah, I think like in a normal year, it's something like 90-ish, 95-ish, between there, percent of our students will be living on campus all 4 years, I believe. Like I said, with COVID, I think a lot more people than usual have been moving off campus, just because I know for me personally, like I moved back to Saratoga Springs in June. I've just been living off campus because I don't want to go home. And I think that is one of the main reasons that a lot of students have lived off campus, is just to have the like concrete, like you will have housing because you signed a lease. But that being said, honestly, I also lived in the apartments one summer and it was a lot more convenient. Landlords are really annoying and gross and they make things really difficult. And it's really hard when you're like a college student, just in general to like understand how like rent works and know when to like do like adult things like that. So I think living on campus, there are definitely advantages to that. Yeah.
Great. During the year, can you have visitors? I'm assuming like in your residence hall, or can folks come visit you on campus? And what's that process, if there is one? Richie.
Yeah, I could talk about it before COVID because obviously now no visitors. So that ends that sort of discussion. So before anybody can come into your residence halls that who are on campus, obviously you would have to swipe them in. They don't have access. So your key card gets you access into your dorm and your dorm only. So you can't really just go swiping in all over the place. So that's one thing with visitors. If they're sleeping over, I'm fairly certain you have to tell campus safety that they're staying there. Then there's a certain amount of time. I think it's a week or give or take. I think you would have to probably consult the website, but they're allowed to stay for a certain period of time. Obviously, after that certain period of time, they would have to go back elsewhere. But that's the official Skidmore thing.
Great. What about laundry? How does one do laundry in the dorms, and is it free? Lindsay.
I got you guys. I did laundry the other day. Laundry is sadly, but realistically not free. So, I mean, in the real world, it's never free to do laundry. You have it on your Skidmore ID card. You swipe onto a machine. You then have to make sure you pick the right washer and or dryer. They are all numbered. There's a little chart to help you out because it's a little bit difficult the first time around, but they're just the basic high efficiency laundry machines. Many of them are in the basement of the building. How rounds, it happens to be on the first floor, not in the basement, which is kind of nice because the basements are a little creepy, not gonna lie. I mean, it's a dark basement. Everyone thinks every basement's creepy. So, but it's pretty simple, pretty easy to figure it out. Obviously, if you like, probably ask your parents how to do laundry before you come to college. I also know that there is an opportunity for students who don't feel that doing laundry will be an appropriate thing for them, and that there is an option to have to pay for laundry to get done for you.
Great. Can you give us a timeline of when we'll fill out the survey and get our dorm assignments? I think I might know a little bit about the housing questionnaire, if anybody else. I believe the housing questionnaire typically goes out in June, but as the person who asked the question, it might be a little different in this weird COVID year. But I think we're on track for June-ish for the questionnaire to go out. And then I think by maybe July or early August, I think is when you typically start to find out. Richie, do you know a little more?
Yeah, I just remember this because I was here for OP summer. So that was before me being a freshman. I got to go into college and I didn't know who was my roommate for the fall semester. So I remember we were waiting. It was first week of August. And I remember we were all just looking at our phones, waiting to see who we got matched up with, because obviously, like everybody else does, we probably look up our roommates. When you figure out who your roommate is, you want to see who they are and connect with them as soon as possible. Be like, hey, this is what I want to bring. And you want to do all that. So trust me, we were all like loud, but that's sort of the timeline. So yeah, June questionnaire, and then you'll sort of know around August, and you'll get all their contact info that they listed in their roommate.
Cool. Does the dining hall close on weekends like a regular school, or does it stay open? And maybe a sense of what the dining hall hours are, if you know.
Yeah, so prior to COVID times, the dining hall would be open from before I woke up. So I assume it's like 7 a.m., but it could have been earlier than that. I don't actually know. I was never up early enough to know the opening of dining hall. So if that gives you any station, and then it would be open. It would close for 1 hour between 4 and 5 p.m. for them to prep for dinner, and then it would be open until 11 p.m. and they would have night hours between like 9ish, 8ish till closing, where they'd serve more like late night snacky foods or leftover entree options from that dinner. I know now it's drastically different. We've got much more time for sanitization. So there's a break in the morning, there's a break in the afternoon for like 2 hours. It goes from like 3 to 5. It closes a little bit earlier in the evening as well. I believe it closes more at 10 or even 9. And then on weekends, it does not stay open as late. Dining hall closes at the end of dinner shift, which is about 8 p.m. And typically spa would be open for late night starting at like 11 p.m. or midnight, and it goes to like 2 a.m., which is the best. Late night spa is the best, and I hope you all experience it and that it comes back very soon, because it was the best. But yeah, so in the weekends, it closes a little bit earlier, and it opens a little bit later as well, because they serve more of like a brunch situation in the morning.
Great. So you touched on it a little bit with spa, and maybe you can talk like where that is and what that's kind of like and how it's different from the dining hall. But what food is there besides the dining hall on campus or otherwise, and what's your favorite? Austin.
Yeah, so there, like Lindsay said, there's spa, which is located in the bottom of the student center. And they serve like sandwiches. They usually have like a hot meal that you can choose. And then also like a salad bar with like vending machines, drinks, snacks, stuff like that. But that actually requires payment from like a Skid ID card, something like that. Then we also have Burgess Cafe, which is like Starbucks. You can buy coffee, you can buy pastries, stuff like that. I would say probably my favorite would be the chicken finger and fries from Spa. Unbelievable. Better than going downtown. So, and also look for Chicken Finger Friday at the dining hall. That's a huge hit as well.
They also offer a vegan gluten-free version of the Chicken Finger Friday, which is super delicious. So that's fun. Any other suggestions on food on campus or off campus, and your favorite?
Off campus, my favorite is Druthers. I went when I first toured. When I tour guide, I was like, "Where should I go get lunch?" And they were like, "Go to Druthers." So I went to Druthers, and now whenever my family comes into town, which obviously they don't do right now, we all go there, and so that's kind of like my family's little thing now. So I really love Druthers and their mac and cheese. But on campus, I do really like Spa, and I really like getting their sandwiches and stuff during the lunch, especially if you're like trying to go in between classes.
Great. Okay, this person is not from New York. So what's the weather typically like throughout the year? And what suggestions will you have in terms of what somebody would need for winter clothing? Richie.
Yeah, I could tell you exactly what you'll need. So the winter, if you're not used to winter, get a big coat, or just try to come to the Skid shop when it's like warm, because they have some nice coats and gloves. That's why I have gloves from them. It keeps me warm. That's all I know. And trust me, just have boots, because if you don't have boots, it's gonna be a sucky time for you. But I will tell you now, once you transition into spring and summer, it does get hot. It's like you can either experience the coldest of colds to the hottest of hot. So you'll get the whole entire sort of season here at Saratoga Springs. So I honestly enjoy it. And I honestly love spring and fall weather here. So that's my type of thing. But winter, just best way I could tell you to prepare is coat, boots, maybe some ski pants. Maybe you want to get a sled so you can go down Northwoods, something along those lines.
Sheena.
Yeah, I would agree with everything Richie said. There definitely were times I remember, especially like my first year, where it would like I'd have my like 9 a.m. tap class in the sports center, which is like the farthest thing from campus, which is still like 5 minutes. So it's really not that bad. And I remember being like, "Ugh, it's -10 degrees and it's awful and it's freezing. Versus like now that like I'm a senior, in December when I was here over break, we got this like intense like 3-foot snowstorm and I had to like go dig my car out and I was in like a sweatshirt and rain boots. And like at this point I'm just like, okay, like I've been here forever and it's like cold. I would definitely recommend if you have an opportunity to stay for the summer, definitely try and do that. Because like Richie was saying, it does get super beautiful here. It does get really hot though. There were some days I remember when I was working in admissions one summer, we'd be giving tours in like 100-degree weather, which did kind of stink. So it is very much, you know, between the like extremes. I would say in terms of like the normal school year, I think the first couple weeks of September are still pretty hot and then it just kind of gets pretty chilly and then it just kind of like stays pretty chilly until honestly like May. And then it'll just be like 75 degrees and then 100 degrees. So I would definitely bring like a range of clothing and lots of like layers and stuff like that.
Great. There's a question about good ski mountains near Skidmore. I'm a skier. I can mention, or Austin, you talk.
I'm not a skier. I was just going to say Gore Mountain, but I don't know if you want to talk more about it.
Yeah, Gore Mountain's, I think, a better mountain. There's a mountain super close called West Mountain. It's about 25-30 minutes up the Northway. It's a, you know, easy kind of fun mountain. Gore is maybe about an hour away. There's also Killington and Pico in Vermont, super close though, about 2.5 to 3 hours. We have 2 club sports teams, our alpine ski team and a little bit more competitive downhill skiing, and also our snow sports club as well. So all of those, they typically, so whether you're a competitive skier or a first-time novice who wants to try, there are a range of ways to enter into that and different ways that our Student Government Association financially supports that, because skiing can be a little pricey sometimes. There are also packages. We partner with some of the local mountains to offer some packages that you can get a really great season pass deal. And, you know, when you're connecting with friends to catch a ride, especially up to West, which is super close for some, they offer night skiing and great deals. So lots of options here between the Adirondacks and Vermont. There's some pretty awesome skiing. Is there a place to get mail and packages on campus? Lindsay.
Me and my Amazon addiction will cover this one. Yes, there's definitely a place to receive packages. There's the post office, which, right, it'll be like in that August time, you're going to get a bunch of emails from Skidmore being like, here are your roommates, here's this. And something that you kind of got to do a little bit of digging for, because sometimes the email gets really easily buried, is for your mailbox number, but it does exist and you can fairly easily look at, if you go like mailbox, look up Skidmore, a page will come up. And so you have a mailbox, it's your same mailbox all 4 years. The address is kind of funny the way to write it. So you just gotta like put it down sometime and like then just always reuse it to make sure here and not to Saratoga post office. But otherwise it's really simple. You can go figure out how to use the lock boxes like you would a PO box at a typical post office. A little bit tricky to figure out in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, some of them are a little sticky, but once you figure it out, you're good to go. And it's super easy to pick up packages. They all get delivered. You go up, swipe a card, they grab them for you from the back from wherever they're storing them, and it's super great.
Great. How long does it take to get from res halls or apartments to different places on campus? So Shana, you talked about that sometimes long walk to the sports center. What's your sort of sense of getting from one place to another on campus, particularly living quarters to other classrooms and other spaces?
Yeah, it definitely depends, you know, where you're going. I would say like the farthest walk that you'll have would be from the apartments to admissions where I work. That being said, no one actually works in admissions, so like it really doesn't matter, but that walk was maybe 20 minutes. And that's like really pushing it in terms of length. And I think it's really convenient, especially when it's cold, that we do have a smaller campus. Basically campus is like a circle. If you're living in North Quad, then it's like 2 seconds to the dining hall. Then it's like 3 more seconds to Case Center, which is where all my majors and one of my minors are. So that's where I take all my classes. So everything is like really convenient, was really within, when I was living on campus, like a 5-minute walking distance. Our science building, I would say, is one of our farther academic buildings. From where I lived in North Quad, maybe it was like a 5 or 6-minute walk. Our music building is a little bit further, and then the apartments just sit like right behind like that circle of where campus is. Those can be, I think maybe we'll, depending on which apartment, we'll maybe add like a 5-minute walk. I think a lot of that also depends on if it's snowy or icy, and then I would definitely give yourself quite a bit more time, especially coming from the apartments because they are a little hilly. But all in all, like it really does not take very long to get anywhere on campus. There's always time to like stop at the dining hall and grab like a cookie or a banana or a cup of coffee on your way somewhere. Everything is really convenient. I have been known to like sleep until 10 minutes before class and then like run, and I'm always on time. So yeah.
Great. Is there a bank or credit union on campus? Yes. Anybody want to say more about it? Yeah, Richie.
I mean, I have it. It's SFQ, so it was my first credit union. I had a little little student bank account in high school, but then I was like, since I'm up here, might as well just open up another bank account, and it's fairly easy. So if you go in there, very nice people, and they'll help you make a debit card. If you've never made a debit card before, if you have made a debit card before, whatever level you're at, they'll just help you sort of figure that out. So, yeah.
Great. I'll mention there are 2 ATMs. There's an ATM right outside of there's an actual branch of the SEFCU, State Employee Federal Credit Union, right on campus near Johnson Tower and the dining hall. There's an ATM there. There's also an ATM in the Student Union building as well. Are there Hispanic restaurants in town? Richie.
Yeah, I'll give you 2, El Mexicano and Cantinas. I definitely love El Mexicano, just the vibe, the atmosphere, definitely. And they give you a lot of food for like $20 and you can't beat it, and absolutely enjoy it. It's so fun. It's just, I haven't been there since COVID, so hopefully maybe the atmosphere is still cool, but definitely would recommend at least getting takeout there if you can, because I'm already thinking about their food. So maybe after this, that's where I'll go.
Great. Is there good hiking around Saratoga? And is the outing club active? Lindsay.
Yeah, so we have Northwoods, which is at part of campus, which has lots of hiking in it. A lot of students will just go there if they want to do like a little quick something, or if they're in the front, a few friends just want to go take a walk together. We are really close to the Adirondacks, so there's lots of great hiking there. I know people who like would be going up in the weekends and stuff there. In terms of the outing club, they are very active. They're one of our largest clubs on campus, maybe the largest club on campus. Before COVID, we always had posters. They had emails. I wasn't even on their email list, and I was getting emails. So they're very active, and they do things like hiking, but they also work with the ski trips. And they'll do ski trips as well. And then also, as incoming freshmen, there's also Scoop, which is an option for hiking adventures, but I don't know if that'll be available to.
Yeah, we'll see what the fall brings in terms of pre-orientation. We're hoping to do some in-person pre-orientation in fall of 2021. If my roommate were to test positive for COVID, what would happen? Lindsay.
So if your roommate were to test positive for COVID, your roommate would be moved into an isolation room, which means that they have a positive COVID test. There's isolation rooms and quarantine rooms. Isolation means they have a positive COVID test. They would then be moved to the isolation area. Right now, we're using a building on campus called the Surrey Inn, which is a little bit farther off campus and is never ever inhabited by residents typically, or like students, but we're using it right now, obviously, because weird times called for weird measures. After that, then you would also have to quarantine. If it was your roommate, your entire suite would be quarantining because you all share a bathroom. So it would be likely that you would in your room in quarantine. They would come in and fog the room though beforehand, before we're to stay in that room long term. They would have like immediately afterwards, they have someone come in and fog it. to make sure in the bathroom to like try and kill the chemicals. And then they'll deliver food for you, but you're not allowed to then leave that room for those 10 days or anyone else in your suite, which is why it is so important for like students to be mindful.
Great, thank you. What other coffee places are in town? Austin, I know you talked about Saratoga Coffee Traders, and I think importantly to this person, is there a Dunkin' Donuts?
Yeah, so there are two that I know of for Dunkin's. It's about a 5-minute drive from campus, like in the opposite directions. There's Crew Coffee, which is about another 5-minute drive. Like I said, Saratoga Coffee Traders, Uncommon has coffee. There's tons, but yeah, I'm a little biased towards Saratoga Coffee Traders.
There's also a Starbucks in town. Starbucks on campus too, but also in town. Shana, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Spot Coffee is also a really cute place to do homework. And I think, I don't know, there's a lot of coffee shops just like popping up all over. And then Stewart's, which is our like gas station chain here, also like has coffee and stuff like that. And then in terms of on campus, like Marielle said, Burgess Cafe, the dining hall has coffee, get a Keurig for your dorm. And there's definitely a lot of that around campus and in Saratoga.
Cool. Any tips for setting up your dorm? How do you make it personalized, but still a good learning space? Richie.
At least for me, I think one of the most important things was just making a space in my dorm, because I'm a person, I like working in my dorm. So that was one of the most important things, is I sort of made my desk my working area. So right now I'm in my desk where it's like, okay, now I'm in like my working area, but then my bed is nice and comfy. It has nice pillows. I have posters near my bed, and there's a lot of ways you can make it comfy at the same time workable. And I feel like during COVID, it helped me better sort of figure that out, just to figure out how can I make my home sort of more of a working environment as well as a cozy place where I can come home and debrief. Because trust me, sometimes I know you just want to come home and just lay on that bed, but you also do have to have a working space there too. So
Lindsay.
To add to that, we all have window seats, which is the best thing ever. And I say to really utilize that window seat. As Richie was saying, the desk is for schoolwork. I use the window seat for my hangout spot. I'm in it right now as well, because after sitting in the chair all day for class, I needed a change of pace and a change of the way I was sitting. But I like to just use my bed as much as I can for just sleeping. I found that also really helps with living and doing everything, especially right now in COVID, in one room, that keeping my bed only for bedtime has been really helpful for me, at least.
Awesome. And people get really creative with the decoration and personalization of their dorm room. So there's a lot of possibilities, and actually there's a lot of ways to get inspired too as you're visiting your friends in the res halls. So speaking of window seats, do the windows open in dorm rooms, and can you get fresh air in the rooms?
They open. Some of them have different ways of opening, depending on the room. This one just moves up and down. Different ones, you gotta like crank it and it swings out. They all have screens for the most part, unless your screen is somehow missing, in which case then talk to facilities, because you should have a screen. But I have heard of people missing screens, which is why I say that. But yeah, it's super easy to get fresh air. I mean, you might want to keep it closed during the winter, but up to.
Great. Related to the room, what kind of furniture is in a standard first year room? What's typically in the first year room? Shana?
Yeah, so everyone will have their own bed. Obviously, in a residence hall, it'll be like a twin XL bed. And one of the nice things, even if you're in a double or triple, it's not like bunk beds or anything like that. Everyone gets a desk, a chair, a dresser, like a little bookshelf. And then everyone should also have their own closet space, even in the triples, which is really nice. And those are usually built into the walls. In the apartments, I believe your bedroom comes with pretty much all the same things. It might have like an armoire instead of like a built-in closet, depending where you are, or like a bedside table. I believe you can look all that up on the website as well, and also like see pictures of how everything looks. And then if you're also living in an apartment, the common areas will be furnished as well. So you'll have like at least a couch and like a table and like a dining room table and chairs and stuff like that.
Great. How late is the library open? And there's might be a, like with some of the other things, a pre-COVID and a COVID answer to that. Lindsay.
Yeah, so I was in triple freshman year, so I spent a lot of time in the library because my triple just wasn't very conducive to my studying habits. More like I wanted to be up later studying than they wanted to be awake. Made a lot of sense. So the library opens early in the morning, at also probably around 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Pre-COVID times. And then it'd be open on school nights till about 1 a.m. from 12 to 1, depending on the school day. On the weekends, it would go back towards 10 p.m. it would close. And then on high peak frequency times, meaning like midterms, finals, it would sometimes get pushed back to 2 a.m. But the library is not open 24/7. They want you to go to bed. If you do need to be up studying after the library closes, Case Center is open 24/7. And so a lot of students will migrate there if they're gonna plan to, which I obviously don't recommend, but I do it, so I know other people do. It's a thing. It's college. People make their own choices about that. So there's right now, the current thing is it's reservations. It's closed much earlier and is much more used, very much for using it for a library and not as much as a hangout and study space. Obviously, you can study there during the day. We also have free printing in the library, which is so amazing. Free black and white printing. Obviously, you shouldn't be printing everything out because of like environment and stuff, but I'm a printer. I need physical copies. I need highlighting abilities. So I definitely took really good advantage of that my freshman year.
Shayna.
Also with COVID, which I personally really like, this new policy is that you can get books, like you can order them online and then the library staff will like pick them out and then you can just like show up, show your ID and grab them. I have like 20 books checked out for my thesis and then you can just renew them all online and then you can just drop things off. So you don't actually have to be spending time, walking through the library and looking for sources if that's something that you need for a project.
Related to how high quality is the printer in the library?
Black and white printing, it'll do what it needs to do.
Richie, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, to my knowledge, to me, it's high quality. It's big. It's like definitely to my like stomach or chest area. And I'm like, from my printer at home that would shake my whole entire desk, this one just does sort of spits it out. So trust me, it's very quick. And some of the printers across campus staple, which I never saw printers that did that, but until I came here, so they're stapling printers. So if that's high quality, yeah, that's it.
Austin?
Yeah, there's also media services and printing services, so they can help you out if you have like a project due that requires, a really high printer. They have those there.
Yeah, in our student union building on the first floor, on the sort of opposite the post office, is like a proper Xerox. We call them print services, but it's a Xerox place. There was a question. What about groceries? Are there good places to find dairy-free vegan food? Shayna.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm living off campus, totally cooking for myself. And one of my housemates is a vegan. So I am very familiar with all this. I'm a vegetarian also. In terms of grocery stores, I think that's like one of the things that I would say it is really nice to have a car for. You can also take the bus. I would also just say on the topic of having cars, just like make a friend with a car. That's probably a lot easier than like having to dig your car out of snow. Like I have like since my first year. We do downtown, we have kind of like a smaller price chopper and they, I think definitely are like a little bit more limited. Like I know for a fact, very upsetting, they don't have oat milk there, but they do have like coconut and almond milk. But then also like a little bit further away, we have like Market 32, which is just like fancy price chopper. We also have Hannaford, which is like fancy. One thing that I know is important for me when I was looking or getting ready to come to Skidmore is the Trader Joe's is in Albany, which that is one thing that is really unfortunate. I wish we had one closer. There's also, I think, Whole Foods in Albany, if you like that. The Target nearby also sells groceries. Walmart sells groceries. So there is definitely a lot available in the vicinity. Stewart's also even sells groceries, and that's like really like a close walk to campus if you just have to grab a couple things.
Austin?
I'll just add that Fresh Market is like comparable to Whole Foods, which is one of the closest ones to campus, like right down the street. So that's another convenient one.
I'll put a plug in for, there's a little grocery called Four Seasons, which is really super local. There's a store and then a cafe in town. And so that's why I do a lot of grocery shopping, especially for that gluten-free, vegan, et cetera, dairy-free kind of stuff. Let's see. Oh, and also the other thing I'll mention with COVID that's been great is one of the benefits, right, is grocery delivery too. So I know some students have been having their groceries delivered if they can't get to the Market 32 or the Price Chopper or Hannaford, with a little added fee, groceries can be delivered to campus. What's religious life like on campus? Is there a church or other faith services available on campus? Lindsay.
So I'm actually the treasurer of one of the faith-based clubs on campus. I'm a member of Newman Club and Christian Fellowship. But we have multiple different ones. We have, I was just looking at a list of them all earlier. We have a Muslim Students Association. We have a Halal group. We have a Christian Fellowship, Newman Club, which is a Catholic club. We have Challah for Hunger. And then I think that's all of them. If I'm missing one, someone could add one if they want. But I found we do have a chapel on campus, which is used in a very non-denominational way. It's all run by Parker Diggory. She's the director of religious life, and she's amazing. And so that's open for different chapel times if that's just a space you want to use for whatever form of religious or faith you have. It's also used for meditation and yoga. And it's just a little bit up on the north side of campus. It's not too far into Northwoods, but it's on the edge. In terms of in town, there's a bunch of different churches fitting all different types of religious affiliations. So it's very accessible to find a religious group. Obviously, the campus has no religious affiliations or anything, but you can find those people if that's something you're interested in.
And I know our Office of Religious and Spiritual Life works really hard to both make connections for students to connect with faith-based communities in town, but also to provide moments for holidays and holy days on campus. So for example, I know there's planning happening for Ash Wednesday observation on campus. There's Shabbat every Friday. There's we work with student groups for Ramadan. I mean, there's lots of events on campus too for our students in terms of religious and spiritual life. If my parents come to campus, are there good places for them to stay or things for them to do? Austin.
Yeah, my parents actually come up for almost every hockey game, and there's tons of hotels, tons of like bed and breakfasts, inns all across town. They have to serve like the growing population that comes for the track season in the summer. So when the track season is not going on, there's tons of open rooms at pretty good prices. So definitely a bunch of availability there. And then there's also, you know, I think Spa State Park is a cool place to go if you just want to walk around with your parents. There's tons of stuff to do.
Shana, did you have anything to add?
I would agree with mostly everything that Austin said. My older sister went to college in Indiana. My parents didn't even drop her off. And they come up all the time to Saratoga Springs. They really love to come visit here. And like Austin said, there are a lot of places like really close to campus. I know it's a little bit cheaper to stay in like Malta or Ballston Spa. If you do have a car, my family usually does that. Or there's these kind of like crappy motels just like down on like South Broadway that my parents will also stay at. Like Austin was saying, we have a ton of like travel and stuff in Saratoga, usually over the summers. So in the off season, which is like during the school year, that's pretty affordable. I know people will also do Airbnbs and stuff like that. And I definitely think that like family member, or at least my family members, really love coming to Saratoga.
Great. All right, I think this is our last question. In general, What do you know now that you wish you knew before coming to Skidmore? Austin.
I'll say like just how cool Saratoga Springs is. Before high school, if you told me Saratoga Springs, I wouldn't know where it was. And now being here 3 years, I love it. So much to do, so many good restaurants, food to try. The summers are great. I actually got an internship up here and hopefully can stay up here after college just because I enjoy it so much. So yeah, that'd probably be mine.
Lindsay?
Yeah, when I flew across country, because as I said, I come from California, it was very much a decision of what I need for what parts. And I was like, I haven't been in winter before. And so I brought a lot of clothes with me that I never ended up wearing because I was used to California. I also changed my wardrobe completely at the beginning of college. So something I'd recommend is if you are going to pack, maybe pack less clothes. So that way you can then buy some when you get here and as you find your style and like how you build into our community. That's something I wish I would have.
Richie?
Yeah, one thing is definitely try to join as much clubs as you can. I feel like I could have joined a lot more clubs because trust me, when you go to hopefully when COVID's over and fall 2021, hopefully you guys get a nice club fair that's in person. It's like a whole entire line of tables with a bunch of clubs. Some are performing, like it's just very live and it's so fun, especially when it's a nice day. Because typically in the fall, like Shayna said earlier, the first 2 weeks are really nice. So that's typically when the club fair happens, and then it's just one of the best. I always call it sort of the best days on Skidmore, just because it's so fun. You got to see what Skidmore is all about. So, highly recommend just getting involved.
And Shayna?
Yeah, I would agree with everything that everyone has said. I think my like biggest piece of advice would just be like really try and take advantage of everything that like Skidmore and Saratoga Springs has to offer. Like Richie was saying, my first year didn't really join that many clubs. Didn't really go to any of like our big Skidmore traditions because I was like, oh, I'll go senior year. And now COVID happened, so I don't really get to do any of them, which kind of stinks. And also like to Lindsay's point, I think just like really taking advantage of like all of the amazing people that you'll get to meet and like the opportunities that you'll have to sort of like grow as like a human person. I think Skidmore has been a really good place for me personally, at least to just like really explore things about myself and really like come into myself. And I think that's definitely been like one of the highlights of my experience, you know, as great as classes are and as, you know, awesome as it is to like have jobs that like build my resume. Like I think like the social aspect of campus is something that's like really been like the highlight of my Skidmore experience.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. A huge thanks to our student panelists for your candor and sharing about your experiences at Skidmore. And thank you all so much for attending and asking such great questions. We really appreciated our conversation this evening.